Flamingo Books. Shining English Reader. Series 7. Chapter 5. The Carterville Ghost. When Mr. Hiram B. Otis, the American minister, bought Canterville Chase in England, everyone told him he was doing a very foolish thing, as the place was haunted. "We have not cared to live in the place ourselves," said Lord Canterville. "I feel bound to tell you, Mr. Otis, that the ghost has been seen by several living members of my family." But Mr. Otis did not agree. "There are no such things as ghosts," he told Lord Canterville. Lord Canterville described all the ghostly sightings, but Mr. Otis refused to believe him. "Well, Mr. Otis, if you don't mind a ghost in the house, it is all right. Only, you must remember I warned you," said Lord Canterville. A few weeks later, the Otis family that included Mr. and Mrs. Otis, their daughter Virginia, twin boys, often referred to as Stars and Stripes, and their eldest son Washington drove into the castle. Standing on the steps to receive them was Mrs. Umney, the housekeeper, whom Mrs. Otis, at Lady Canterville's earnest request, had consented to keep on in her former position. "I bid you welcome to Canterville Chase," she said. Following her, they passed through the hall into the library, a long, low room, paneled in black oak, at the end of which was a large stained glass window. Here they found tea laid out for them. Suddenly, Mrs. Otis caught sight of a dull red stain on the floor just by the fireplace and, quite unconscious of what it really signified, said to Mrs. Umney, "I am afraid something has been split there." "Yes, madam," replied the old housekeeper in a low voice, "blood has been spilt on that spot." "How horrid," cried Mrs. Otis. "I don't at all care for bloodstains in a sitting room. It must be removed at once." The old woman smiled and answered in the same low, mysterious voice, "It is the blood of Lady Eleanor de Canterville, who was murdered on that very spot by her own husband, Sir Simon de Canterville, in 1575. Sir Simon lived after her for 9 years, and disappeared suddenly under very mysterious circumstances. His body has never been discovered, but his guilty spirit still haunts the Chase." "That is nonsense," cried Washington, the oldest Otis son. "Pinkerton's champion stain remover will clean it up in no time." He scrubbed the spot and the stain was gone. The next morning, Mr. Otis and Washington found the bloodstain in the library again. "I don't think it is the champion stain remover that is to blame," said Washington. "It muse be the ghost." He accordingly rubbed out the stain a second time, but the second morning it appeared again. The third morning also it was there, though the library had been locked up at night by Mr. Otis himself, and the key carried upstairs. Mr. Otis was now beginning to think that the ghost existed after all. Sometime later at night, Mr. Otis was awakened by a curious noise in the corridor, outside his room. It sounded like the clank of metal, and seemed to be coming nearer every moment. He got up at once, struck a match, and looked at the time. It was exactly 1 o'clock. The strange noise still continued, and with it he heard distinctly the sound of footsteps. He put on his slippers and opened the door. Right in front of him he saw in the wan moonlight an old man. His eyes were as red burning coals. Long gray hair fell over his shoulders in matted coils. His garments were soiled and ragged, and from his wrists and ankles hung heavy metal chains. "My dear sir," said Mr. Otis, "I really must insist on your ailing those chains, and have brought you for that purpose a small bottle of the Tammany Rising Sun Lubricator. It is said to be completely effective upon one application. I shall leave it here for you and will be happy to supply you with more should you require it." With these words Mr. Otis laid the bottle down on a marble table, and closing his door, retired to rest. The Canterville ghost threw down the bottle and disappeared through the wall. He went to his secret chamber. He was greatly insulted. He thought of all the people he had frightened in the last 3 centuries. "They never treated me like this," he said. All night he thought about his revenge. The ghost was very upset. "How could they treat me this way?" wondered the ghost. "It's humiliating." The ghost felt very ill after this. He hardly left his room, except to put the bloodstain on the floor in the library. When he recovered, the ghost resolved to try again. He planned to go quietly into the boys' room and sit on them until they screamed. What a marvelous plan, he thought. At 10:30 he heard the family going to bed. For some time he was disturbed by wild shrieks of laughter from the twins, but at 11:15 all was still, and as midnight sounded he moved ahead. He waited for the clock to strike 12. A raven croaked from an old tree outside. The wind rattled the shutters. What a perfect night for a scare, thought the ghost. He chuckled to himself and turned round the corner. Suddenly, he wailed and fell back in terror. Right in front of him stood a horrible ghost. Its head was round, fat, and orange. Its eyes were empty black holes. It laughed at him with an awful grin. The Canterville ghost had never seen another ghost before. After a second glance at the strange phantom, the Canterville ghost covered his eyes and ran back to his room. As the sun came up, the ghost gained some courage. Perhaps this other ghost can help me scare the twins, thought the ghost. He tiptoed down the hallway, reached the spot and gasped. Something had happened to the ghost. It no longer looked frightening. The Canterville ghost could see the ghost's head was only a pumpkin. He read a sign that said Ye Otis Ghost. The Canterville ghost had been tricked. A few days later, Virginia Otis saw the Canterville ghost. He was sitting by the window, his head leaning on his hand, and was looking depressed. Virginia felt sorry for the ghost. My brothers are leaving tomorrow for school, she said. If you behave yourself, no one will bother you. The ghost turned around. It is my job to misbehave, he said. I must rattle my chains, and groan through keyholes, and walk about at night, if that is what you mean. It is my only reason for existing. Nonsense, said Virginia. She turned to leave. Please don't go, Miss Virginia, cried the ghost. I am so lonely, and I don't know what to do. I want to go to sleep, but I cannot. That's absurd, said Virginia. I have not slept for 300 years, he said sadly. And I am so tired. I wish to fall asleep and never wake, said the ghost. If she would be his true friend, the ghost could sleep forever. Virginia considered the ghost's request. She stood up and said, I will help you. She took the ghost's hand and followed him through the wall. About 10 minutes later, the bell rang for tea. Mrs. Otis was greatly alarmed when Virginia did not appear. Mr. Otis rode his horse across the countryside to search for her. He could not find her. Then at midnight, a panel at the top of the stairs flew open. Virginia came out looking very pale and tired. My child, cried Mr. Otis. Where have you been? Papa, said Virginia quietly, I have been with the ghost. He is dead now. Virginia led them down a secret corridor. Finally they came to a great oak door. Virginia opened it. They found themselves in a small room. A huge iron ring was attached to the wall. A chain led from the ring to a skeleton. Virginia explained that Sir Simon was locked in this room long ago. Now he can rest, she said. 4 days later, the Otis family had a proper funeral for Sir Simon.